Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. This is Miss Byrd. Today we're going to be talking about solving one variable equations. So our TEK today for Algebra 1 is A.5a. It says solve linear equations of one variable, including those for which the application of the distributive property is necessary and for which variables are included on both sides. Okay, so here's some properties of equality. And I'm just going to go straight into some equations, some examples. So example number 1 says solving a two-step linear equation. So solve each equation. That's the directions. Letter A, we have 2n minus 7 equals -1. We're going to go ahead and write the equation. And when I'm looking at this equation, I'm noticing that I have a variable. We have a 7, a -7 equals to a -1. So what I want to do is I want to make this equation where we can solve for n, and that means I'm going to get rid of the 7 first. So I'm going to do the inverse operation, which means plus 7 to both sides of the equal sign. Okay, so the -7 and 7 cancel out, and we're left over with 2n, so I'm going to bring it straight down, equals, and -1 plus 7 is 6. So now we have 2n equals 6. We're going to go ahead and simplify that by dividing both sides by 2. So I want to get n alone. Originally this means 2 times n, but we're going to do the inverse of multiplication, which is to divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by the coefficient 2. So 2 over 2 cancel each other out, and n is left alone. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. Okay, let's move on. So I'm going to rewrite this equation. 3/5 k plus 2 equals 11. And so I'm going to go ahead and solve this. I have here, we're going to go ahead and subtract the 2 because I want to get the variable alone. So I'm going to get rid of this 2. So the inverse operation of adding 2 is to subtract 2 to both sides. Okay, so the 2 minus 2 cancel each other out, and I have 3/5 k left alone equals 11 minus 2 is 9. Okay, so now to get k alone, here we are saying 3/5 times k, so the inverse would be to divide both sides by this fraction. But to divide fractions, you're going to actually multiply the reciprocal. So on both sides, we're going to multiply by 5/3 to both sides. When you multiply 5/3 times 3/5, the reciprocal, you end up with 1 in front of the k. So because 5 times 3 is 15, 15 over 15 is 1. So they actually cancel each other out, and you get 1k. But we don't have to write the 1, so I'm just going to write k equals. Then I have 9 times 5/3. So when I multiply, I can reduce the 9 and the 3. This becomes a 1 and this becomes a 3. So 3 times 5 is 15 over 1 times 1 is 1. So my answer is 15. Okay. Okay, so I did a shortcut here by reducing the fraction. You don't have to do that. You can do 9 times 5 and then divide it by 3, and that still gives you 15. All right, let's move on. The next example, letter A, we are solving an equation involving the distributive properties. So A says 3 times the sum of x plus 5 equals 6. Okay, so I'm going to write the equation first. 3x plus 5 equals 6. Okay, so I notice here that I'm going to have to distribute the 3. So I'm going to distribute into each term. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 5 is 15. And then equals 6. Okay, so now I'm going to simplify by moving the 15 to the other side. So to do that, I'm going to subtract 15 to both sides. The 15s cancel out, and I end up with 3x equals 6 minus 15 is negative 9. Because since the signs are different, you subtract, keep the sign of the larger absolute value, which is that 15. Okay, so here to get x alone, we're going to divide both sides by the coefficient, by the 3. The 3 over 3 cancel out, so we end up with x equals negative 3. Voila. Okay, letter B. 21 equals 0.3 times 2m minus 3. So I'm going to write the equation. Okay, so I need to distribute the 0.3 into each term here. So I'm going to multiply 0.3 times 2. So if you have a calculator with you, you can do that, or you could go to Decimals, and you could do your calculations there, decimals.com. Okay, it says to start graphing, and so right here I'm going to go ahead and type 0.3 times, now right here is the keyboard, so you can just press times from here, 2. When I push enter, it gives me the solution here, 0.6. Okay, so here I have 21 equals 0.6m, and then I'm going to multiply 0.3 times negative 3. So it's going to, you can go back to your calculator and you can type that in, 0.3 times 3, 0.9. So right here I'm going to put 0.9. Okay, so I need to get m alone, which means I'm going to move the 0.9. So it says minus 0.9. We're going to do the inverse operation, which is to add 0.9. And I'm going to bring it to the other side of the equal sign, plus 0.9. I'm going to have to line up my decimals so I can add those. These cancel out. So when I add 21 plus 0.9, it's 21.9 equals 0.6m. Now, to get m alone, I need to get rid of this coefficient, which means I'm going to divide both sides by this coefficient, which is 0.6. Divide by 0.6. These cancel out, equal 1, so m is alone. And then I'm going to do 21.9 divided by 0.6. So I'm going to go back to my calculator, and I'm going to type that in. Divided by 0.6, and I get 36.5 as my solution. There you go. Okay, last example. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this. Negative 3 times 2n minus 1 equals 3n plus 21. Okay. So I can see here that I have to distribute the negative 3, not just the 3, but negative 3. I'm going to distribute into each term here. So I have negative 3 times 2n, which is negative 6n. Negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3 equals, and I'm just going to bring this down. Now I want to put my constants together and variables together. So I'm going to move this 3n to the other side. So right now it's positive 3n, so you have to do the inverse, which is going to be minus 3n, and these cancel out. And then I have negative 6n minus 3n, which is negative 9n. Now I also want to move this constant, so the inverse would be -3, -3. These cancel out. I'm going to bring down my equals. And then 21 minus 3 is 18. So now I have -9n equals 18. So I want n alone, so I'm going to divide by -9 to both sides. Then the -9s cancel each other out. You have n alone. And then 18 divided by -9, which is -2. Okay, that's it. So this is what we did to solve equations with one variable. Just be careful when you're using the distributive property. Be careful of the negatives. So that's it. Thank you. Have a good day.